Hello, everybody. Welcome back. This is a special post pay-per-view edition of the show. UFC 317 just wrapped up. I'm sure you guys were all watching. I know Drew and I definitely were texting back and forth through the whole event. I mean, my goodness, what an event it was. I mean, easily best event of the year so far, I think. I don't think that's a question. And obviously the biggest news coming out of it is, I mean, Ilia Topuria just completely flatlining Charles Oliveira in like a way that, I mean, goodness gracious, just blew my mind. I don't even know what else to say. Like, I'll throw it to you in a second, Drew. But like one thing I wanted to call out that like immediately stood out to me on like the way that the UFC was kind of handling this fight is pay-per-views. They don't usually post finishes, right? Like that's not a thing that UFC really does. The only other time, and I could be wrong, that I can think of them posting a finish as quickly as they did was when Sean O'Malley knocked out Aljamain Sterling. But as soon as Ilia Topuria knocked out Charles Oliveira, immediately all over the socials. So that is just to say that that right hand by Ilia Topuria probably just sent him into the stardom super high up ranks of whatever in the UFC. And I am just completely, I mean, we both picked Ilia Topuria, but goodness gracious, seeing Charles Oliveira out like that just blew my mind.
Absolutely. I mean, first thing I want to start off by saying I finally broke the curse.
Yeah, there you go.
It's been like a year and 2 months maybe, but at long last I have gotten a main event card right. And people talk about the Drake curse, but I think it's more impressive that
Drew curse.
Drew curse, yeah. We got to trademark that.
Dude.
But yeah, I mean, going off what you said, I think one thing that also kind of interested me was the commentary reaction to the knockout. Because don't get me wrong, after the knockout, there was like they lost their minds, but the brief 2 second moment where it happened, there was like a silence that I'm not really used to when I see a knockout, where everyone I felt like the kind of internal dialogue for everybody was like, oh yeah, this is the thing that we kind of expected to happen, but wasn't really sure it was going to happen. Like it was kind I guess like it kind of felt like, oh, it did happen. Like I and I guess that was kind of like the feeling I got. And I think and it kind of goes back to our narrative about Ilia Topuria, where it's been almost impossible to question him. I mean, you have Ilia going out and like celebrating the day before the fight, being like celebrating as if he had already won the belt, going up to Charles, being like, I'm so sorry, I didn't want it to be you. All this different stuff. It's very Connor-esque, and I've brought it up before. I think, and in a way, I think this is going to bring Ilia to the level of stardom. Maybe not to the level of stardom that Connor currently holds, like, or at least held at his peak, but I do think it's definitely a big start. This is very much similar to the Eddie Alvarez double champ type situation. It's very different for Ilia though, just because I feel like, and don't get me wrong, it was as dominant and as impressive a performance as Connor did against Ilia, but I guess I didn't question it as much. I guess there was just, and I wasn't necessarily around for the reign that Conor McGregor did have, but it kind of goes back to that thing where I just don't question it anymore. It doesn't surprise me. There were moments in the fight where I was a little worried. Whenever whenever Charles got that leg lock, I was like a tiny bit concerned. I was like, that would be the worst way for Ilia Topuria to lose, by like a heel hook or something like that. But at no point was I really worried. And even
Yeah.
when the knockout happened, I was impressed. But it wasn't Adesanya Pereira 2. It wasn't Kamaru Usman Leon Edwards 3, or not 3, 2. It was just like, oh yeah, this is what I thought was going to happen. And I guess that kind of shows how dominant Ilia has been, and it really brings to question where he sits on the pound for pound table going forward. But I mean, yeah, going back to you, like that was just an insane performance, and it's crazy just how stacked the lightweight division is. I mean, at no point is it not super competitive and not having someone at the top that is just head over shoulders above everybody else. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't think that we've ever seen a KO streak in terms of star power and just pure domination that Ilia just put together. I mean, knocking out Alex Volkanovski out cold. Let's take this a little bit slower than I did before. He knocks out Alex Volkanovski insanely impressive, obviously. But Alex was coming off of getting head kicked and finished by Islam, so everybody was kind of like, okay, that was super mega impressive. We had never really seen him get put out like that, but he's fighting a guy that had just been finished. He was kind of at that point, I mean, obviously Alex is champion now, but we didn't really know, where he was. Okay, that happened. Insane. Then he knocks out Max Holloway, and you're like, okay, what's going on here? Like, this is getting ridiculous. Like, it's already this is a guy who was he was super dominant in his run up, but he wasn't doing this at any point. He dominated Josh Emmett, but it was a 5 round fight. The one time he had moved up to 155, it was against Jai Herbert, and he got knocked down in that fight. He submitted Bryce Mitchell, but I don't know, it's crazy. So then leading up into this last fight against Charles Oliveira, he's a massive favorite. He's got insane everything behind him. Everybody, we picked him. I mean, he's minus 500 favorite in some places. So it's not like it was a surprise that he got a win. But to knock out Charles Oliveira in a way where, I mean, I don't even know. I've never seen it like that before ever. And, we did talk about this in our breakdown. One of the biggest points we brought up was that, Charles gets knocked down a lot, but you can't play that game against Ilia. And it seemed like whether he tried to or not, the head move wasn't there, whatever. It started off a scrambly fight, but it did not end a scrambly fight because one guy is standing there. And I think the most interesting thing maybe to come out of this, we'll get to the pound for pound. That definitely needs to be talked about, but was Paddy's entrance into the octagon after raising a lot of eyebrows. It immediately sparked conversation between me and you because there's a lot of debate right now about who really deserves it. I don't think there's a question of who the biggest star is. Obviously, Paddy in that division, other than Ilia, is probably the biggest guy. That's not maybe like Dustin Poirier or somebody that's probably not going to fight again for the title, but there's a lot of questions, and I would be curious your take on, first of all, Paddy's entrance into the ring, look a little bit chubby, as Paddy does. Not quite as bad as he used to, but
He actually looked thinner than I was anticipating. Like, I mean,
yeah, dude,
he's taking my weight off, but I don't know.
imagine he showed up in the octagon just like fully like just
220 pounds,
yeah,
like Sandy,
yeah.
like the Padres.
Yes. Oh my God. Oh, dude, the Photoshop pictures from that. Anyways, that was insane. But I want to hear your take. Like, what do you think? What do you think should be next, and what do you kind of make of Paddy's entrance there?
I mean, we were talking about this earlier. Like I almost kind of forgot that Saryukin was the backup fighter for this, and you would think that that would be a key indicator as who the next guy going up is. Um, do I think that Paddy is the best, like the most qualified fighter to be next for the title shot? No, I think Arman Saryukin's resume shows that arguably he's the best fighter to go against Ilia Topuria. I think as good as Paddy is on the ground, I think Saryukin is the more well-rounded fighter. I mean, he's probably the closest comp to, I mean, to like a Charles Oliveira, maybe like a more well-rounded version, not necessarily with like jiu-jitsu, but just like well-rounded on grappling, well-rounded striking, just kind of. I just think he's like a better suited fighter for a guy against Charles Oliveira because if it's purely stand-up, I mean, don't get me wrong, something massive could change in the amount of time that it takes for that fight to get set up, but there's a very obvious discrepancy between the skill level that is Paddy Pimblett's striking and Ilia Topuria's striking. And I mean, like it's like comparing like Steph Curry to to Ben Simmons essentially. Like, and like no disrespect to Paddy, but I'm a Paddy fan, but
For
I
sure.
mean it and this is the cool like kind of the cool dynamic that I feel like I'm kind of seeing is that we're making a lot of connections to Connor, right? And Connor was this unstoppable force coming in, knocking out dudes, calling his shots, like top of the world. And then who does he get paired up against? Nate Diaz, this guy who, don't get me wrong, Nate Diaz wasn't a bad fighter by any means, but he wasn't. People wouldn't compare him to the level that was Connor. And then you go in there and everyone's thinking, okay, well, Connor's striking is far superior than Nate Diaz's. I mean, he's not really going to get to the ground a lot. Like he should be. It should be an easy like fight for Connor. And he goes in there, and somehow, some way, Nate Diaz just takes all the punches and outlasts Connor until Connor just gasses out. Obviously, Connor did end up redeeming that fight further down the road, but I feel like that kind of tainted his legacy just a tiny bit, at least in that moment, because he kind of was looked as if he was this untouchable guy, and then to have that bump in the road, kind of, I feel like it just kind of made it a bit more difficult for him going forward, and that's kind of the parallel I'm seeing right now, because on paper you would say that there's no way Paddy Pimblett beats Ilia Topuria, and that's why it makes sense to do Arman Tsuyukin, but I don't know. We've seen this story before, and it makes
I'm not taking this.
it
I'm
ma-
not listening to this.
give me Paddy Pimblett by knockout round one. No, I'm just kidding. But no, I mean that's kind of the interest that it creates. I think that's is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, the UFC is a business. The matchmaking is subjective. You don't have a system where if you beat this person, you automatically fight this person. It all just matters. The only thing that decides who you fight is Dana White and Hunter Campbell on a Tuesday in the war room, right? So
100%.
I think from a business perspective, it's really easy to look and think Paddy Pimblett versus Ilia Topuria is going to do really good numbers. A lot of people know Paddy. A lot of people know Ilia now, if they didn't already. Which, I mean, if you look at his following, he's already pretty massive. But that's a really interesting fight to make, and I can't say I'm not interested in it. But I mean, it just comes back to the same thing. Like, obviously, I would say Arman's probably the better fit for the fight. So I mean, it's really just going to depend on what direction the UFC wants to go. But
Yeah.
obviously, I want to hear your opinion on it. But I guess my question is, and I think that, I feel like this all comes down to a larger question, which is, do you see Ilia Topuria losing to anyone in the division right now?
Dude, I'm so high on Ilia Topuria right now. Like I'm going to become like it's going to be unbearable. Like I feel like the boxing already kind of had me in, but man, that just blew my mind. I the thing I'll say about the Patty situation is I can totally see a world where because Patty walked in and he said you don't knock me out like I'm not you're not gonna
I
knock me out
don't
like
get
that.
knocked out.
Yeah, that I totally see a world where the fight happens and he does, and then that is just hung over Patty's head for the rest of his career. But anyways, yeah. I mean, I don't really think I honestly have anything different to add than everything you said. I think a lot of what it also could come down to is timing. That seems to be a lot of the reason that a lot of people get title shots. What's maybe hard about this situation is that it seems like everybody's kind of ready already. Like Patty is very clearly not injured. He's ready to go. Armin just weighed in, so he should theoretically be ready to go. I know Gaethje is just kind of sitting there in the wings, and he wants a piece of this. So I would love to see. I don't know. I think Armin is the most exciting fight stylistically, but I can't say that I'm more excited about that than seeing Patty fight him. I think there's a lot, but also something we got to bring up: the fight that should have happened, and after seeing this fight, holy cow! I will wish I could have seen this fight happen, and I want to see it happen. Islam, man, like goodness gracious, that's the fight I want to see next. I don't really care about the rest of the contenders at this point. Seeing him knock out Charles Oliveira like that, goodness gracious, like how can anybody watch that? I'm not saying he would beat Islam because Islam is Islam, but how can anybody watch that fight and can give you know Ilya no chance at all? Like he touches dudes and they go out in a way that we've not really seen in any divisions other than like heavyweight. You know what I
He
mean?
beat Charles faster than Islam did, if you really
Yeah.
think about it.
No one, and even Charles is known to a lot of people as like a quitter early in his career. I mean, not obviously recently, but even in that era of Charles when people were hating on him, he was never put out like that. It was never. But anyways, I think before we get too into this conversation, we should talk about the whole pound for pound thing. Because I think it is a very interesting conversation to pick between the pretty obvious number one and two right now, I feel like, which is Ilia Topuria and Islam Makhachev. I think it's hard to make a decision right now because you watch that fight and you're like, okay, it's got to be Ilia, right? But there's a lot that goes into it. I mean, man, I don't know. You know what?
I have.
Yeah, you go ahead. Well, I still need to think about this clearly.
I think this is the question, the argument that people are not paying attention to. I think people are looking too much in the right here, right now, and trying to look at the pound for pound. But I think if you take a step back and you look, I think you make an argument that Ilia Topuria's legacy, I mean, at least in regards to like purely accomplishments, is right up there with Ilia, if not better. I mean, don't get me wrong, Islam has more longevity, at least, in regards to his win record. But let's look at the facts, right? Um, Ilia Topuria went out, knocked out Alexander Volkanovski at his weight class, right? I think that's another thing we're forgetting. It'd be a lot. I don't think Islam Makhachev could beat, or I think it would be a lot harder for Islam Makhachev to beat Volkanovski at 145 in comparison to Ilia Topuria fighting Volkanovski at 155. But I mean, at the same time, you also look at it and you're like, well, it took. And don't get me wrong, Islam did end up knocking out Volkanovski in their second fight, but that was obviously short notice. That was different circumstances. But in the fight where Volkanovski was prepared for that fight, it went 5 rounds. And I don't I've watched the fight back multiple times. I think Islam has won at this point. But there was people were making arguments saying that they thought Volkanovski had won. I mean, and then if you look at the run that Ilia has had, beating, like you said, Alexander Volkanovski, Max Holloway, Charles Oliveira, becoming a double champ, something that Islam has not done yet. That might just be a scheduling issue. I mean, if Islam turns around and beats JDM, then that makes an argument. But I think it's hard to say that Ilia isn't either neck and neck or a little bit ahead of Islam at this point, regardless of what pound for pound stipulations are. But I mean, I would love to hear your opinion, but that's kind of something that I've kind of noticed because people are kind of forgetting that the level of accomplishments that Ilia has reached just within his time as champion. I think that the issue is that despite the fact that he's been champion for so little time, he's done so much. I mean, he's only really had 3 title fights, but those title fights have been arguably one of the best runs in the UFC, if not better. Or if not, yeah.
Yeah. You know, my opinion on it is let them fight. That is my opinion. I don't even think I want to pick a person. I think make them tied for one and make it. Do you remember how Islam versus Alex, when it was booked, was literally like one versus number two? Like the winner will become. Make this again. Like let's do that again. Um, because I think they're literally, and I think you're right as far as the title run that Ilya is putting together is pretty legendary at this point. Um, so make them fight for that number one pound for pound. I think it's right there after Islam if Islam beats JDM. So
Here's my question, right? So, I mean, we aren't really doubting Ilya at this point, right? I mean, whatever he says, he does pretty much.
dude, yes.
But in your heart of hearts, do you think that Ilia Topuria could go up to 170 and beat Islam Makhachev and become triple champ or
Man.
3 division champion?
So short answer, yes. I think he could 100% go up to 170, knock out Islam. I think he could go up to 265 and knock out somebody. That at this point at 2:45 a.m. on Sunday morning, that is how I'm feeling right now because of what I just watched happen. But honestly, I think now saying that, I think it is really. I don't. I could see him wanting to do that to prove something, but I think to make this fight in the best way possible, I think we should see it at 155. I I don't know. I just don't really see the point in seeing it at 170. I know Islam struggles to make 155, but he can make that weight. And if Ilya is already coming up from his original weight class at 145, and now is the champion, which he clearly is not too small for it. But I don't know. I also don't really like that because like if Ilya's the 170-pound champion, is he going to start defending against 170-pound guys? Like, how does that? I don't know. I think he could do it, and I think it's something that you know maybe Ilya wants to be the first triple champion in UFC history, and I think Islam versus Ilya is. I'm not going to say a 50-50 matchup, but I think it is getting closer and closer to that the more we watch Ilia Topuria fight. Um, so yeah, short answer that I turned into a long one just because I'm thinking while I'm talking. I think he could do it. I do not want to see him do it. So let me ask you the same thing, and then maybe you can turn us into the co-main event here because there's another title fight to break down.
I mean, I think it depends on at 170. Right now I would say no. I think if Ilya took like a 6 month break and like adjusted to going up to 170, I would say yes. But I think the issue is that I think the issue is that Ilya, his current weight right now is 175, 180, right? Even if he did go up, like a transition to welterweight would not be difficult for him. I think the added weight though would be an issue though, because I mean, if he was cutting a lot of weight at featherweight, if he was coming in at like 160, 165, then he was at a clear weight advantage. I mean, he's 20 pounds above what the weight limit is. Like he's gonna have, even if everybody else is there, he's gonna have an even, if not higher, advantage against every person he fights. Going into this fight, it's 155. He's saying that he's weighing in at 175, 180. He's coming in at a 25-pound advantage. Charles is probably the same. But again, it's the same principle. He's pretty even right there. If he goes up to one welterweight, I mean, he only has to cut 10 pounds at best. Even by the time he rehydrates, does not have to worry about going back down to 155, assuming he doesn't go back down to 155. So if Islam's making that same cut, he's probably weighing in at 205, 200 to 195 pounds. That's a 10-pound advantage against a guy who is predominantly a grappler, and not only predominantly a grappler, predominantly a Dagestan wrestler. Like I think that's the issue that happens there. And as good as Ilya is on the stand-up, I do think it would be an issue. And I think you saw it, at least in some sense, at how difficult managing the clinch was against Charles Oliveira. Like, that was one thing that Charles was able to do somewhat significantly well, which was handle the clinch, and that's honestly how he was able to take down Ilya in the first place. I mean, obviously from there it didn't really go well. Ilya kind of easily passed Charles's guard right before getting in like a leg entanglement, but I think that's kind of the issue there. I think if Ilya took some time off, I think he would easily do it. I think if Ilya goes in at the same weight, I think it's a really I would say there's probably a 70% chance that Ilia Topuria wins. But if he was to go right now, almost the same way that Volk did, where kind of like unprompted, kind of just jumping up, I do think it would be an issue. Could he do it? Yes, even then, I would probably say it's probably like a 60-40 split that towards Islam, but I do think that extra weight is an issue. I mean, we've looked at guys like Israel Adesanya, where guys who are these like insane strikers move up a division, and if you're not taking enough time to build up that weight, especially if you're trying to come back down to your weight class afterwards, like I believe Adesanya was, then 10 pounds is a significant disadvantage at that point. But yeah, I mean, I do think this was a really important fight. At least I do think the bigger question is, do they ever fight? Because I think the thing that could become an issue is just how long Islam wants to stay and fight, right? I think Islam's coach said like 3 fights maybe that he has left. I mean, say he fights JDM. I find it hard to imagine that his first fight after becoming the champion would not be against a natural welterweight, because I think one of the bigger criticisms about his lightweight reign was he fought a featherweight 2 times, right? I mean, he fought. I mean, aside from that, he fought Renato, Moicano, and Dustin Poirier, and Dustin Poirier is a good one, but I mean, a little bit post prime. There were some other lightweights that were kind of up there that was a bit of an issue. I mean, had he fought Saryukin, definitely would have been impressive, but I think that kind of becomes the issue there. But then say he does beat another welterweight, then maybe Islam Ilia is Islam's last fight before he would retire, supposedly. But yeah, it's just a difficult situation, and I find it hard to imagine a scenario where you could convince Islam to come back down to 155, especially since he's kind of been in such preparation to do 170. But yeah, that's kind of my opinion on it. But I do like going back into it. Another fight that was very important was obviously the co-main event, and I mean, kind of to backing it up as well was the fight before that, which kind of leads into
Yeah.
what the next fight would be. Kai France versus Alejandro Pantoja. Um, Kind of went. I wouldn't say it went how I expected, but it went. I wasn't necessarily insanely surprised. Um, I do think what I kind of noticed was that Kai was like came out very strong, and the second that there was like those strong strikes from Kai France, Alejandro Pantoja immediately shot for a takedown, held Kai France in a body triangle for the rest of the round, and then it was kind of just the same bread and butter. From there, I mean, third round, got him in the same body triangle and was able to just lock in a rear naked choke.
Yeah.
Uh, I do want to know what your opinion on the fight is, because you pick Kai France to win,
Yeah.
and I guess my other question would be is what do you think are Van's odds
Yeah.
going into a fight against Alejandro Pantoja after seeing how easy it was for Alejandro Pantoja to beat Kai France, seemingly?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, with these two fights, except for how good the Van and Royval fight was, there's not too much to really honestly even break down. I feel like it's pretty. I think this is really like really superb matchmaking by the UFC as far as even like putting these two fights on the same card, and I think they got not lucky, but like I would say that Van winning opens a ton of doors for them there because, like you said, I picked Kai, but I can't say I was insanely surprised by the result of that fight just because I think it was pretty clear going into that fight that like if Pantoja could kind of get a hold of him and grab him, and if Pantoja can do that to you, then like I don't think anybody really has much of a chance. And Kai has been through it. It's not like he's a young contender who's not been to the top before. So gutted for Kai, but you know, Pantoja is just a beast. He's just so insanely dominant and such an impressive title reign. And as far as the Van fight, I mean, goodness gracious, this guy has won two fights in 3 weeks, and this one will make him the number one contender.
Yeah, broken toe too, apparently.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't even know what else to say. I mean, fight of the year so far for sure. I mean, I think just insane back and forth. Um, as far as and the reason I say there's not much to talk about is because I mean the number one contender is right there. Joshua Van is going to be the next guy for him, and you know I am so high on Joshua Van as well. I think I've talked about him the last couple just because of his last couple performances have just been so impressive to me. That performance was so impressive to me. Pantoja is such a beast, dude. It's going to be such a hard fight to predict there. I think we all know who I'm going to pick. But, you know, you brought this up when we were talking about this fight over text. If Van has any weakness in his takedown defense game, if he has any weakness in his submission defense, purely because he's a 23-year-old fighter who has not really done this, it's going to be a long night for him. So I'm not going to say that is going to be make or break, but I think that is a major, major factor that I really hope. And it's kind of a win-win for Van. He's 23. If he loses, he loses. Who cares? If he wins, he is on a rocket ship. But yeah, those are kind of my thoughts on those two. Did you have anything else you wanted to add before we got into the next one?
I mean, I guess the one thing I would maybe add is like if you're looking towards that fight, I mean, just how, and I mean, this is kind of obvious, but just how much the threat of grappling affects your fighting style. Like for instance, I think the reason Joshua Van was able to open up and get as many combinations as he did was because he knew that Royval was probably not going to take him down.
Yeah.
Like, I mean that was primarily a boxing fight. I mean, there wasn't really a lot of kicks. I know Van started incorporating almost these like oblique style kicks near the end of the fight, which I think even opened it up for the fact for him to be able to get that knockdown
Yeah.
at the end. But when you have a guy like Kai France who is very powerful, right? Um, his style is primarily striking, but whenever you have a guy like Pantoja, it's so hard to set up combinations and get stuff going when you know that the second things get heavy, he's going for a takedown. Like if you look at Kai France's posture at the start of the fight compared to the start of the third round, he's pretty much standing completely straight up, and then by the third round he's like leaning forward, like almost like as if he's ready to like try and like drop down and stuff a takedown.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see like how Van's style changes going into that fight because don't get me wrong, I think Van obviously looked very good. I mean, he was able to dust a guy like Royval, and Royval gave Pantoja a relatively tough time when they fought each other. But at the same time, I can't recall if Van has fought like a predominantly heavy grappler. So it would be interesting to see how that affects his style.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's been in the UFC for not even enough time to really test that, right?
He's got
So
like, he's got like 8 fights in
yeah.
2 years.
So
It's crazy.
it'll be fun either way, though. Okay. I think that's good on those two. These last couple weren't quite as high stakes, but pretty fun ones. This was the one. This I can't say disappointing because I can't. I do like Beneil Dariush, but Beneil Dariush defeated Renato Moicano with a pretty clear cut, I would say, 29-28 decision there. That first round, though, man, it was looking dicey for Beneil. Renato was looking really good, but then it just kind of fell apart. But Beneil was able to put together his grappling. They both looked so fatigued by the end of that fight, too. That was
Oh, they're
insane.
old, bro. They're old.
I know. But I don't know. Renato, you can't say this guy's down. Like I feel like he could lose and lose and lose, but he got his title shot. He has like some huge like crypto sponsorship now. He's in like big time ads. Like he is.
I did not know
He
about
was.
this.
I don't know the exact details, but he's in some commercial for something. Like he's got his podcast. Like this guy is on top of the world. And this was an interesting fight. The round two and three were a little bit strange game plan wise from Renato. It kind of seemed like it kind of fell out of his hands after that first round. But Beneil is a dog. He's solid. I don't really know what I would say is next for these guys because they're both 36 in the lightweight division that we just talked about is pretty freaking stacked all the time. So
Give me Beneil Dariush versus Ilia Topuria.
God,
All right, that's the fight to make
oh
right
my
now.
God.
I'm telling
But
you.
like actually though, who I wonder who would we match make Beneil against? I mean, I don't.
I mean, they're both ranked, I believe,
Yeah.
right?
Um.
I mean, and that's kind of the tough thing that you have and we kind of did touch on this a little bit. We were making the picks. It's just that regardless of what happens, there's not really a direction with this fight.
Yeah.
I think I kind of said that it would be better maybe just for Moicano because Moicano kind of has had at least some level of momentum. For Beneil, it kind of seemed as if he was on a somewhat steady decline, I believe. But
Yeah. Maybe
yeah,
Beneil, Rafael Fiziev, who's coming off a win. They're right next to them in the rankings. That could be fun.
Moicano Chandler.
Yeah, that could be fun. Yeah.
Uh, I mean, I guess you got Benoit Saint Denis as well. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
Saint Denis he's been doing better, but
I mean,
great.
great top 15. So there's so many good matches we can make. But yeah.
I mean, it's just hard to make a pick there because I mean you have is Beneil even Beneil's not even.
No, he
Oh no,
is.
no, no.
He's 11th, right? Yeah.
I was gonna say I didn't see his name at first, but it's just tough because there's a very weird dynamic within the lightweight division where almost everyone aside from Dustin Poirier, I believe, has a win in their most recent fight. I guess, yeah, I mean, Arman Saryukin won. I mean, I guess disregard Charles Oliveira. Justin Gaethje just beat Fiziev. Max Holloway has his win over Gaethje. Poirier, he's gonna be fighting. He doesn't even matter. Dan Hooker had his win over Gamrot.
Yeah, and he
Uh,
has he's been dealing with a lot of
yeah, like
hand
hit broken
issues.
hand or
Yeah,
something.
like three different surgeries. So he who knows when he can come back.
Gamrot won on the Macy Barber co-main, right, which
Yeah,
eventually turned into that main event. Paddy Pimblett beat Michael Chandler. Beneil just won. Fiziev just won. And then you have Moicano, Chandler, Grant Dawson, Benoit Saint Denis, all that. So I mean, the top 10 is all within all on wins on their last fights, except for Charles Oliveira most recently. So it's just a weird situation, and you have these guys and who are kind of just on their way out, in some sense or the other. So
yeah,
I think at some point they kind of turned into like Jeff Neal's of the division or something like that, or maybe even like a Gilbert Burns type role where kind of just like checking people. But I mean, whatever direction, because I just don't see a situation where Beneil can really challenge anyone in that top nine. I mean, or top eight. I mean, maybe Gamrot,
yeah,
maybe, but everyone else in that division is
dude. It
killers.
felt like yesterday where he was against Charles Oliveira and he was one fight away from that title shot and then just got remember that he got knocked out and he
8 fight win
yeah
streak, right? Yeah.
it was crazy. It's insane how quickly the tides can turn on you, especially when you age into the lightweight division. But yeah, last fight on this main card here. Payton Talbott with a big comeback win against Felipe Lima. I mean, I think the biggest thing here obviously is just the way he was able to turn his grappling around in, 5 week notice fight. So really good win for Payton. He looked really well rounded, clearly outstruck him. Felipe shot for like I think 15 takedowns. Was only able to get. Let me pull this up again. Three of
He
them.
had three.
Yeah.
Three
So
take. Yeah.
I mean that kind of tells the story of the fight right there. Payton.
Outstruck him 2-1
Yeah.
almost, and I think that was something you mentioned too. I think the statistics pretty much outline themselves like exactly. I think Talbot's like strikes per minute average going into the fight was like 7, and then
Yeah.
Lima's was like 3.5.
Yeah.
So I mean that pretty much ended up going exactly what we thought it
I mean,
was.
the biggest question was would he be able to, do the grappling? Cause and he did. So good for Payton.
Yeah, and the crazier thing is that they were saying that this would be a harder fight than his last fight against Baralo. To
Marcellus.
Barcelos,
Yeah.
yeah, not Cal Baralo. He did not fight Cal Baralo. Um, but yeah, I mean, very impressive. I guess it's kind of just a weird situation, and I think DC was talking about this where you don't want to push him too much. I mean, he kind of referenced the Bo Nickel De Ritter situation, and while in my head I would like to see maybe Talbot go against a ranked guy, maybe at like the lower level, I do think another unranked fight would be good for him. I think he definitely has the time, and I think if he can kind of just refine some of those things that he needs to improve on, like you said, the grappling, which I think already had a massive improvement. If you would say, I think if he can refine some of those things and just tune everything up, I guess a little bit, I do think whenever he does finally make that leap to those ranked fights, he will be a very big threat.
Yeah. Give me Payton Talbot, Cody Garbrandt. That's what first popped into my brain. I think that could be a fun
Yeah.
one. That could be.
Is Cody even? Cody's not ranked. Yeah, he's not ranked
Yeah.
anymore.
Just
Right.
and he just lost to Marcellus too, so it'd kind of be a natural
Nice little like
little
stepping.
yeah. So Drew, is there any of these prelim fights that you want to touch on here before we wrap up this episode?
I mean, maybe RoboCop. I mean, his. I mean, it was funny too because I remember our conversation because we both like had picked Hermanson,
Yeah.
and he was doing pretty good. And I swear I texted you. I said, "Bro, Hermanson's like combinations look so clean." And not 30 seconds after I send that text, he gets absolutely flatlined.
Dude.
Like,
Bad.
and the crazy thing was that they kept the EMTs kept him for like an hour past that fight because they did not.
Yeah.
He was like, I guess the knockout was.
Those follow-up shots too. I mean, those.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, true. I think because I think Joe Rogan was saying something about the follow-up shot being unnecessary, but
It
I mean at
happened
the
so
same time,
fast. I don't think Rogan
yeah.
can do
But I
that.
mean, and also like, I mean, it's the referee's job to step in there. I mean, I don't think anyone's truly at fault in that situation, but I mean, a very impressive fight. I mean, RoboCop's he's what, like 38? He's
Yeah,
old.
dude. I mean, he's. I think I don't remember if it was
Yeah.
his last fight, but he fought Cannonier. He lost that
Oh
one.
wait, no, I am way off. He's only 33 years old. Never
That's
mind.
what I
He's
thought
got.
too. I thought he was older.
I think it's just the
Yeah,
face. I think it's the face, but he's got this crazy power.
yeah.
I mean, he did come in at like a minus 180 favorite, but he's putting in some. I mean, he's been doing well. Like four wins in his last five. His only loss being to Jared Cannonier.
Beast.
I mean,
Yeah.
and I mean, up until that knockout, he was neck and neck with him with strikes. I mean, he's definitely got. I mean, he's not ranked yet, but I mean, he's obviously got potential to, if he continues this run, to be a threat within a division. When you have strength like that,
Yeah.
it's really scary within a division. I think, and it's once you start hitting that 185 that like strength starts getting scary.
Hmm.
Like
Unless you're Ilia
like
Topuria.
unless you're Ilia Topuria, yeah, unless you're Ilia Topuria. Book Ilia Topuria versus
Go
RoboCop,
against
right?
anybody, dude, to see what
Yeah,
happens.
Nick Parkin.
Nick
I,
Parkin.
I want to see that. I want to see that fight
Yeah.
right now.
Let's do it.
But
Let's do it.
yeah, I mean, I think this is a really good card. I mean, I tried to watch a decent amount of the prelims, but I mean, and someone was talking about this online, I believe. They were saying like a good like structure for cards going forward, because I guess the issue is that a lot of the times with cards, we try and put as many noticeable names as possible, and that's not bad, right? Like if you have a big super card like once a year, like I think that's fun, but I do think this structure helps better because you kind of have these like this up and comer fight, and then the next fight is these like older guys who are kind of just in limbo, and then the next fight after that is a number one contender fight. Then after that, a championship fight that was pretty good, and then right after that, the big fight. And I think that kind of helps better in China, and also allows us to better diversify cards going forward. Because if you, I think this was kind of the issue back in 2023, like that summer. I remember there was like three or four cards out like in a row that were just really really good, like from top to bottom, just completely stacked. And while it's good, the issue is there is that you kind of limit how like much we can spread that talent across the entire schedule or the entire like quote unquote season of the UFC. But I thought this was a really good card. I think
Yeah.
it was really fast too. There was a lot of first round finishes within this card.
Yeah.
I think it was very entertaining, and yeah,
Yeah.
and interesting going forward. And obviously, uh, up soon we have Holloway versus Poirier, so a lot to look forward to.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't have said it better, man. It was an awesome card. Crazy results. So many things that we're gonna be. I mean, I feel like we could talk about Islam, or it's not Islam. Sorry, Ilia Topuria for hours. Like, there's so much that could happen next to that guy. But yeah, I think that'll be it. We covered a lot more than I thought we would get to today, which is great. Hope you guys enjoyed. We got some cool stuff coming out around this one and all the next cards. So I think that's it. I'm Henry,
I'm Drew.
and we are out. Thank you.